There was a recent comment on one of my videos talking about, when I talk about, no, these will be good pirate ships, these will be solid pirate ships. Why don't I ever mention the Mantis as a good pirate ship? And the reason for that is because of a conceptual idea, fruit of the poisonous tree. Or I believe it's called fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. So for those of you who maybe swim in legal circles, you may know what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't, what it basically is let's say if a piece of evidence is tainted, as in obtained illegally or whatnot, then everything that comes from that evidence is automatically inadmissible, right? And that is kind of the problem with the Mantis. It is the fruit of the poison tree, or the poisonous tree, or however you want to kind of put that sentence together. The problem with the Mantis isn't solely the Mantis, though the Mantis itself does have its rather exceptional issues. The problem is the quantum system itself, the underlying system that the Mantis is a part of because of its quantum interdiction features. That underlying system is broken, so the Mantis itself, no matter how you buff it or kind of make little changes, it is still the product of a broken system. And the reason why you don't hear a lot about the Mantis and why you don't hear a lot about quantum is I think that CIG has kind of gone like, that this is something that needs a rework, but right now we're very, very busy and we don't have the people to kind of put onto this project, so we're just going to be kind of quiet about this whole system. And at some point in the next year to 2 years, we're going to step up and say, oh yeah, that quantum system, we've thought about it. Turns out we don't like the way that it works either, so we're going to redo it. And this will be the time when people like me will say, yes, finally, and other people say, the people who originally were saying, oh no, quantum's fine, will be like, oh, well, CIG, I'm glad you finally saw the light, and good on you, and let's go. You know how this stuff goes, but quantum travel in Star Citizen, as you're about to see me plot a course in quantum as I'm off to do more, evil pirate missions. Quantum travel, while it looks like a straight and narrow line, is really not. If you think about my point of origin, Grimhex, my point of origin is actually floating in an asteroid field around a moon in the Crusader planetary system. So the planet and Crusader and its moons. And so my origin point is moving in space. It's constantly rotating around this moon. So long as the server operates, this point of origin rotates around this planet, or travels around it in orbital pattern, whatever, however you really want to kind of spell that out. But what it basically means is that the first feature of the quantum interdiction, or basically quantum interdiction itself, the act of pulling somebody out of quantum, effectively doesn't work because it has a limited range. I think it was buffed up, so it's about 20 kilometers now, but it's not anywhere near where it needs to be. In order for interdiction to work, you have to kind of put yourself at a place where any help that could try to get to that ship when they've been interdicted and they're being attacked has to be far enough away from any conceivable point of origin, so you would have to put yourself almost at the midway point or something close to the midway point to the major centers of player activity within that solar system. In putting yourself there, you effectively make it mathematically nearly impossible that you would pick the right point of origin between 2 points in space. And remember, even, a person's launching point from the surface of a moon rotates as that planet rotates. So your playing field is hilariously small compared to the amount of space that you would need to affect to realistically have any hope in hell of interdicting a player. And most players are going to become very sensible. Even like we've outlined strategies on how to evade this if this ever becomes a thing. It's not that difficult. So your first feature of your 2 features of quantum interdiction go out the window. Your second feature is where the problems with the ship itself come into play. You have to be really super close to another ship to interdict it. I believe the current range is about 2,000 meters, though once you've snagged somebody, I think you can actually drift out to about 4,000 meters and still kind of keep them from going into quantum. Which sounds, kind of decent if you were interdicting, let's say, like an Aurora or maybe like a 125. It's not too bad, but that's pretty much all that you can interdict with this ship, because any ship that is larger is going to simply turn around, chase you down, and pummel the living bejesus out of you, because you only have 2 fixed size 3, weapons and a smattering of unimpressive missiles. Anybody is just going to just walk over to you and simply stomp on you. And the problem really is that our basic non-quantum flight system uses 6 degrees of freedom, which means that even though you can react very quickly, your ability to change course is not that quick. Ships are kind of lazy in their flight and kind of sloppy in their handling. And even if you were to try to get up close to a ship and say, hey, I'm going to hide in that blind spot, as people used to say until they realized what 6 degrees of freedom meant, there is no blind spot, because anybody can simply decouple their ship and bring their weapons to bear and just turret you in space. And so it becomes a contest of hit points and firepower, neither of which you have, because your shields, while you do have 2 shield systems, are only size 1s. So realistically, you're going into any situation where any ship of consequence that you could interdict is completely outgunning you. Your hope of outrunning them, reasonable but not realistic, because by the time you get to ships that you're really strong at outrunning, chances are the weapons that they have are still going to be able to reach you, and you're just going to get stomped. And even if you were to be part of a larger aggregate force that was attacking a ship, people are going to learn very quickly to identify you and just nuke the hell out of you. You're probably literally flying the ship as a death sentence, because you're going to be the first one to go in a big team fight. They are going to absolutely eliminate you, because eliminating you opens up a huge door for retreat. So you are going to be A1 primary target, and guess what? No shields, no armor, and speed, well, not really. So maneuverability, not so much. So you're kind of, it's a death sentence to fly this ship. Now, there is some hope in the future for this ship, because as we've outlined, the quantum system is problematic. We've talked about this in a lot of videos. There are a lot of things that we'd like to see change. It doesn't really feel like you're really exploring space. It's more like you're going from predetermined point to predetermined point. And so there's no real feeling of exploration, whereas way back in the 2.0 days, we could actually just pick a direction and go, and just activate the quantum drive and just go. And that felt closer to exploration, because you didn't know where it was going to end. Whereas the current quantum is just, you're boldly going where so many other people have gone before and made a map and told you how to get there. Right? So, that is kind of a problem with quantum. The fact that, even though you're traveling in a straight line, you really aren't, because your point of origin shifts in space. We know that moons rotate on their central axis, but they also rotate around the planets where they reside. So, your point of origin is very, very loose. Plus, players can actually make that even more difficult, should they so choose, though there really is no need for that to be done currently. It's just, there's a whole host of issues that kind of work against this ship. And I mean, the fact is, like, you can't really carry cargo with it. So you can't pirate on your own. As part of a group, you're literally going out there with, this big bright red bubble around you that says, hey, by the way, I'm the one you want to kill first. So, no. In the future, yeah, maybe. When CIG finally kind of says, oh, hey, we've now thought about this quantum system, and guess what? You're right. It does need a rework, much like fixed weapons and much like, hover mode and other things like that. Hover mode was more of a game, like just something that ruined the game, so that they were very quick to remove it. But other things like fixed weapons, they were just like, yeah, you're right. It turns out after years of evaluation, we figured that out too. So this is going to be something that will change in the future. And it may turn into something good. So it's I'm not saying that your Mantis is basically an LTI token. In the current, if the game was what it is now and it was never going to change, then yeah, it's an LTI token, get rid of it. But interdiction could turn into something really cool in the future. We could get, quantum, jamming devices that allow you to jam out to a much further range. And that would be interesting, because that would give you a fighting chance in an up-close engagement where you're stopping someone from going to quantum. Alternately, the interdiction range where you're actually pulling somebody out of quantum. If we changed how quantum works at the basic level, so that a ship flying in quantum was more like a faster free flight, much like you have an Elite Dangerous. And so all you had to do was skillfully maneuver your ship to the point where you could match speeds or maybe just get a little bit faster than the other ship and just get them into that 20,000 meter sphere even for a moment, and then pull them out and then switch to jamming and stop them from getting away. That would be interesting. That would be cool. That would make the ship really amazing. That would bring a lot of, kind of game, interesting gameplay and counterplay, and it would make the system a lot more lively and a lot more fun rather than the fire and forget system that it is right now. There's a lot of other issues with quantum, and we could really get into it, but ultimately, think of it this way. If CIG were to say, hey, you know what, we think you're right, and we're gonna buff the Mantis. It doesn't matter. It's like if you had a buddy who had problems, meeting girls, and you said, well, I took him out and I got him a brand new stylish haircut, so everything should be fine. It's not, because he's still walking around with one finger up his nose and his other hand down his pants. It's like, no, you're not addressing the real issue. The real issue is the underlying system. So, fix those things first and then take them out for a haircut. You know what I'm saying? You get me? So, yeah. And yeah, you know what? If you do swim in legal circles, you probably 100% know what fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine is. Sorry if I, said it the wrong way. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.